Hey guys, Wyatt Claypool here. We need to talk about the very obvious campaign being put on by the liberal media to try and hurt Pierre Poilievre in the Battle River-Crowfoot by-election. I'm going to say right from the start, there's no chance that Poilievre is going to lose this by-election. I know he lost Carleton, but if you actually look at the historical results from Carleton, Poilievre only ever really won that riding by a 10% margin. It was actually fairly impressive that he had been the MP from there since 2004, because that used to be a more traditional liberal riding back in the day. And the fact that him door knocking the entire riding 2 times over every election only resulted in a 10% margin of victory is quite telling of how sensitive, how delicate his actual hold on it was. I think that whoever in the Conservative Party HQ suggested he just run there again when he was leader and didn't have any time to actually door knock his own riding is a complete fool. But that is not the situation in Battle River-Crowfoot. It's not just, well, he lost in Carleton, he could lose anywhere. You cannot lose in Battle River-Crowfoot. Damien Kirk in the general got 86% of the vote. And now he's stepped down for Pierre Poilievre. And this riding is not exactly anti-Poilievre. They voted for Damien Kirk by massive margins, in large part because they like the Conservative Party under Pierre Poilievre right now. There's no one turning on Poilievre because they love Damien Kirk so much and they can't stand that Poilievre is replacing him. That doesn't really represent that many people. I guarantee there's a lot of people who really like Damien Kirk, but there's not that many people who don't understand how politics work and that the leader wants to be in parliament with the rest of his caucus, and that it would be good to have somebody step down so that the leader can take the seat. Anyone pretending that this is weird does not understand how parliamentary politics work. William Lyon Mackenzie King, the longest serving prime minister in Canadian history, did this twice. He lost 2 ridings when he was the prime minister and then had to run again in a by-election to get a seat back in parliament. It's not that strange. But the media is playing this up like there's a possibility that Poilievre could actually lose, because they are propping up an astroturf'd independent candidate by the name of Bonnie Crickley. Is she a bad person? No. I don't really have any opinions on her. She's obviously far more liberal than she lets on. She goes on liberal podcasts. She goes on liberal television shows. You could tell by the way she sort of positions her opinions. She has very generic liberal opinions, but she's acting like a pure centrist in this by-election. But this has nothing to do with her. This has to do with the media, who are pretending she's got a chance, because there are articles coming out from different media outlets saying this. And this is rare for me, but I'm going to actually be giving a compliment to Kyle Hutton from the Green Party, because he's written a very good article calling people out for this election misinformation, playing this up as a tight race when it is not at all a tight race. But before I get into more details, guys, I just want to remind you, hey, if you like this podcast, make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe if you're not yet a subscriber, and leave a comment on what you think about the situation. I like reading through what people think, and it really does help us all in the algorithm. Anyways, so here is the article written by Kyle Hutton, and it is titled, "No, Pierre Poilievre isn't going to lose Battle River-Crowfoot. People seem intent to pretend this can be another Carleton." And Kyle Hutton, who again I've had a lot of disagreements on, I know he doesn't like me, I think does a really good job of calling out many media outlets at the start of this article. We're not going to read through the whole thing. I just want to read through a few paragraphs of it because I think he does frame this in a good way. And then I want to get into just the absurd amount of promotion of this Bonnie lady, who by people who do not live in the riding, and that's not bad, but there is no local grassroots movement for Bonnie locally. All of the content is people outside, and then you might see a picture with Bonnie and like one other person. There's not exactly a mass movement behind her. She couldn't exactly put on a town hall without bussing in people from out of the riding in order to listen to her. But Kyle starts this article off saying, for some reason, media is trying to manufacture a race in Battle River-Crowfoot by-election. So far, I've seen multiple media figures and publications attempt to boost the profile of a single independent candidate named Bonnie Crickley. The most recent is Max Fawcett in the National Observer, who talks about Crickley, concerns about separatists, and so on, so forth, but she's also being interviewed and profiled on the CBC National Post and the Calgary Herald. The fact the last two are Post Media owned as well, it makes it very funny. And he means that because Post media tends to be more conservative overall, but they're also playing up Bonnie Crickley as a potentially, significant figure. I don't think it's because it's like a bipartisan consensus that this race may be tighter than people think. I think she became newsworthy, so the National Post also covered it. But most of the people who've been playing her up early were from the left. Maxwell Fawcett, CBC Power and Politics, David Cochran. You have Laura Babcock on her podcast, and we're going to get to a TikToker later. But it's all obviously artificial. He goes on to say, Kyle says, the profiles of Crickley and others, alongside the moral panic about the longest ballot committee, although I don't think it's a moral panic, it is a kind of a problem when you have hundreds of candidates on the ballot, may just be a product of a slower summer media cycle, but that won't stop me from disabusing folks of the notion, no, Pierre is not going to lose, and the chances of him even putting up a poor performance under 60% strain credulity. Let's go through some of the offered scenarios one by one. And then basically he just goes through, and I'll link the article in the description below. You guys can go read it. One of the few things someone from the Green Party has written that I think is good. But scenario one is Pierre takes riding for granted, independents gaining ground. And yeah, that's not really still feasible. He goes through that. Scenario two, separatists or other cranks get momentum. No, there's really no separatists even running in that riding. And he goes on to say Pierre sucks. That'll do him in, just like Carleton, but he goes through and debunks that Carleton was ever that safe a seat in the first place. But yeah, so check out that article if you want to see the full reasoning. But now I want to jump over to what I see as the astroturf'd campaign, which even Kyle Hutton on the left sees. There are so many people creating graphics and other things for Bonnie Crickley's campaign that are obviously not coming from her. This person who is named Saucy Seawitch, who I don't think I have to tell you does not live in Battle River-Crowfoot, says, support Bonnie Crickley, independent in Battle River-Crowfoot, to be elected as the representative who actually lives in the riding, a person who won't abandon constituents to help keep a 20-year career politician in place. Okay, well, I am waiting for all these people to get very mad at Mark Carney for running in Nepean when he wasn't living in Nepean. In fact, he didn't have a permanent address, apparently, in Canada when he was running for prime minister. Nobody was freaking out about that. Nobody cares that he unseated. He just told the Liberal candidate in that riding to go pack sand, and it was his turn. Nobody cared when Mark Carney did it, but everyone cares when for some reason, like Pierre Poilievre is doing it for a good reason. He's not just inserting himself in the political scene. He was already on the political scene. He's the leader. He needs a seat, and someone voluntarily stepped down. But here is this other person, Aaron Graham, saying Battle River-Crowfoot riding independent candidate Bonnie Crickley is running against Pierre Poilievre. And here's a video of her talking just so we get a little bit of a sample of what she's like.
Afternoon, everyone. We're at the Hardesty Rodeo. It's a little wet, a little muddy. We're all out here. We ain't gonna melt in the rain. We're not made of sugar. But let's support some locals and go out here.
Yeah, she's hard at work campaigning, seeing as she's just at a rodeo, not actually with any literature, not talking to anybody. You might see quite quickly this person is not actually really a real candidate. Here is her on the Ryan Jesperson Show, a large radio show and podcast in Alberta.
Oh, they voted for this guy and he ran away. He abandoned his duty to them.
You're kind of trying to convince longtime conservative voters to vote against the party they've always voted for. Do you think that they're mad enough to vote against the Conservatives for an independent candidate?
Absolutely. And I'm not the one who's saying that.
The funny thing is, notice how she's not telling people, well, I've never been a conservative, but I think you can maybe agree with my ideas, or I've been a longtime conservative myself. She's a liberal. And that's the problem here. It's dishonest. Well, she has a cowboy hat on. She's a local. She's, wanting to represent your voice. It's like, but you're not their voice. They have conservative values. You don't. Great. You served in as a in the military. I think I heard that she was like the second woman ever to be in an armored division in an actual combat role. Great. Okay. But just because somebody who is a communist or a fascist or, some Green Party type hippie lives in a riding doesn't mean that they represent the riding. Same thing in a very downtown progressive riding. Just because you as like a red meat conservative live in a downtown progressive riding doesn't mean that you really represent the views of the people who live there. You maybe want people to change their views and vote for you, but it's dishonest basically pitching yourself as, oh, I'm just grassroots. I'm people's local voice. You're not, because you don't agree with their political stances. You're just some local person. Anyone could run by this standard if they're local. And I don't exactly think that being local to the riding is necessarily the end all and be all. Guess what? There's a lot of terrible people who live around you that shouldn't represent the area. I wouldn't mind if someone came from Quebec to represent my riding if they were more in line with the values of myself. That's just how politics works. People vote for values, not for location. Location helps sometimes. Sometimes it demonstrates that someone's more informed in the area. I always find the fact that someone doesn't live in the riding is more of the cherry on top of them being a bad candidate.
It's all of our neighbors who are saying that. People are choked. Keurig sold us out to the angry guy from Ottawa. For us to have an election and then promptly have to go back another $2 million by-election because the guy we just voted in, who asked us for a mandate, suddenly turns around and says, oh, no, I don't think so. Vote this guy in instead. It didn't sit right with me. And I'm like, I looked around, said somebody should do something about it. So I looked at what was happening when Mr. Keurig stepped down and said, that's not right. So I stood up. Victory for me.
Again, I await to see her Substack articles on why it was so terrible back in the day for Liberal MPs to step down so William Lyon Mackenzie King could take their seat. That's also happened for other prime ministers too. And this stupid moral panic. Oh, it's not the local guy, and we're going to have to pay $2 million to run a new election. I await seeing your social media history sharing Taxpayer Federation articles and Fraser Institute articles that are going on about wasteful spending in government. Do you actually care? No, it's concern trolling. Oh, I'm concerned about this. No, you're not. You just don't like Poilievre. The fact that you parodied him by just saying he's the angry guy from Ottawa. He's also born in Alberta. He grew up in Calgary. So settle down a little bit. Oh, he's the angry guy from Ottawa. Yeah, tell that to the entire riding of people who really like him, that they're just voting for some angry guy from Ottawa, and that there was nothing else to his popularity, especially in the riding that voted Conservative by the widest margin in the entire country. But now I want to get over to a TikToker who's also talking about him, or Bonnie Crickley, her. And again, all these people, all of the people promoting her, are the most metropolitan people I've ever seen. I wanted to get more examples for you guys today. Do you know why I couldn't find you guys more examples? Or I could have, I just eventually gave up. Every single person who was promoting her, almost to a man or woman, had blocked me preemptively. So I was looking at all these tweets. I'm like, oh, I'll bookmark that one as a good example of somebody with, rainbow flag as their profile picture, pronouns in the bio, Screw Poilievre is their profile name or whatever. And it's 3,000 likes or whatever. And it's they live in Toronto, or this person lives in Nova Scotia, or this person lives in Victoria. Yeah, it's fake. All these people, these are the most metropolitan people on the planet, backing somebody up who, while they may live there, is not exactly a Battle River-Crowfoot beacon. This is not someone who exactly represents the political voice of the riding, but here is somebody promoting her.
Here's what you need to know about the Battle River-Crowfoot by-election. As of today, there are 178 candidates registered to run. Majority of those candidates are from the longest ballot committee. They're advocating for electoral reform. They're advocating for a ranked ballot voting system.
No, they're not. They're just idiots. If they truly cared about electoral reform, they would try and actually get it on a referendum ballot in one of these provinces and win for once. My last video was on the fact that in 3 separate provinces, they have lost every single electoral reform referendum that's ever been put up. So no, I don't trust that they actually care about reform, because they know what they're doing doesn't actually promote the reform, and they've been told in all these provincial referendums that the reform is not popular.
What they are doing is a protest to our current electoral system. What they are advocating for is for people to be able to vote for the candidate that they most want to win and rank them as number 1, and then rank the least favorite candidate last. It's actually better for everyone and better for democracy, because your vote would never be wasted with ranked ballot voting.
He's eventually going to get to Bonnie Crickley, but it's actually good that this is here. That's not true. I don't value if you feel like your vote was wasted or not. oh, I voted for someone and they didn't win. Well, do I get a second choice? Do I get a third choice? You were dumb enough to vote for somebody who had no chance. What do I want? I don't want our elected officials to be ultimate compromise people that we all, okay, everyone's fifth choice won. It's like, okay, so we got the worst possible person. The person who everyone agreed with like 15%, but I guess they didn't agree with them 0%. I would rather we elect people that 40% of people voted for rather than 60% of people who all eventually got down to some fourth or fifth choice. And nobody really, either the guy who won only got like 22% of the vote on the first ballot. That doesn't inspire me at all. That's bad for government, but I'll let this guy keep going.
But anyways, also running in the Battle River-Crowfoot by-election is Pierre Poilievre. Pierre does not like the longest ballot committee, and he wants the Liberal government to table legislation this fall to essentially get rid of them.
Good.
Pierre is also still posting about Justin Trudeau over on his X account, and I did check all the candidates that were running in the by-election, and I can confirm none of them are Justin Trudeau, who is running in that.
Oh, wow. Wow. Really? Cool. It's not like he's still posting about things that have to do with Justin Trudeau's record. What, he wanted to blame Mark Carney for everything going on? That would be unfair. But, you know, like Smug Face McSmuggington here knows that Justin Trudeau was not in fact on the ballot, but Pierre Poilievre mentioned him at one point this week.
By-election, though, is Bonnie Critchley, and she is running as an independent, and Pierre's team is somewhat nervous. She is the one candidate.
Show me anything. Show me a single person from Pierre Poilievre's team who is nervous because of Bonnie. Name any of them. Show a tweet. Show even something that if you really squint, you could kind of see that the person's only criticizing her because they might be concerned by her. They don't even acknowledge her existence because she's a nothing. She's astroturf. There's nothing real about her campaign.
Out of all the other candidates that seems to have some momentum behind her. And depending on the turnout, and depending if people unite around one specific candidate to vote for to make sure that Pierre Poilievre doesn't get elected, and they don't split the votes trying to make sure that Pierre doesn't get elected, she could have a fair shot at winning this.
She could have a fair shot of winning this. At 86% conservative riding, she could have a fair shot of winning this. If the other 14% get behind Bonnie Critchley, if we really concentrate, we can somehow win in a riding where the conservatives win by Saddam Hussein numbers. This man failed fifth grade math if he thinks that this is how anything works. He doesn't follow elections. She has momentum because I heard someone talking about her in a downtown Toronto Starbucks. Somebody who watches the CBC religiously in Toronto knew who she was. Ergo, people who go to rodeos are going to vote for Bonnie Critchley, who has liberal values that they don't like.
So if you are somebody who just does not want Pierre Poilievre to win in that riding, whether you're a conservative, a liberal, an NDP, or an independent voter, I would say rally around Bonnie Critchley. She has the best chance of making sure that Pierre doesn't win.
Can I get a definition of what like best chance means? What does best chance of beating Poilievre mean in this scenario? What the heck is going on? I guess she has a better chance of winning than one of the longest ballot committee candidates living in like Gatineau who just randomly signed their name onto the ballot. I guess technically Bonnie has a better chance of winning over those people. If Poilievre dies in a plane crash, I guess she has a chance of winning. She does not have a chance of winning. The reason the media and influencers and other people on social media are trying to get behind Bonnie is because it would be too obvious of what was going on if they're telling you to vote for the local Liberal candidate. Mark my words, Bonnie Critchley, or don't mark my words, I could be wrong. Guys, mark my words if I'm right. If I'm wrong, assume I didn't say this. I could see genuinely the Liberal candidate doing better than Bonnie Critchley. The NDP candidate may do better than Bonnie Critchley because nobody knows who she is. Most people do not exist on Twitter. Most people do not scroll all day on Instagram. People read local papers. They listen to YouTube shows not about just really obscure independent candidates that the CBC is covering. They don't do that because it's stupid. But apparently, again, she's got a chance. Like if you actually look on, I actually want to look up Bonnie Critchley. on Google. I just want to see what the headlines are looking like. So we got Bonnie Critchley here, top stories. Let's go to news articles. I'll bring this up just so you guys can see. There is so much coverage of somebody who is going to be getting less than 10% of the vote. rdnewsnow.com or newsnow.com. I read that wrong. Podcast, who the heck is Bonnie Critchley? She's the opponent of Pierre Poilievre in the federal by-election, who's now up against 100 plus others. Okay. MSN, meet the military trailblazer who's gunning for Pierre Poilievre in rural Alberta by-election. What is she, printed 5 signs? What is she like? Oh, she's on to him. National Post, meet the military trailblazer. Or that's another one, the same one. Strathmore, now independent Bonnie Critchley wants to be the next MP for Battle River-Crowfoot. CBC, Alberta by-election candidate reports potentially threatening comments. RCMP, reporting that she reported potentially threatening comments to the RCMP, and the media is covering that. So somebody said something rude to her, and then she reported it to the RCMP, and now the media is going to cover even that. Bonnie, Drumheller Online, Bonnie Critchley puts name for it. Do any people know who she is? I know she has technically some profile in military circles, but I wouldn't consider it enough that you're writing articles on her. Pierre Poilievre's safe seat isn't so safe after all. This is the one that was written by Max Fawcett that Kyle Hutton was referencing, and it's clownish. No, he's not. It's not safe anymore. Well, he's under threat because some random lady's running who the media is talking about, because apparently everyone's going to vote the way that David Cochrane would. But anyways, okay. Yeah, it's not going to work. But again, what they're trying to do here is get enough people to vote for anybody but Poilievre that he maybe slumps down towards the mid-60s or something like that in terms of the vote. Maybe low 70s, they'll even try and claim victory, and they'll say, whoa, Damien Kirk had 86%, and now Poilievre only has 72%. It's like nobody likes him anymore. And then there's going to be panels on CBC, and there's going to be articles written at all the other outlets talking about how, is Poilievre done? Did Bonnie Critchley getting 3.25% of the vote in Battle River-Crowfoot end Poilievre's political career? It didn't. Is Poilievre going to be the leader of the Conservative Party after January of next year? I don't know. I think it's more likely than not that he's going to stay on as the leader. I think a lot of people still like him. I hope he fires Jenny Byrne. She's awful. It's a stupid decision to keep her around. But whatever. Overall, people still like him. The idea that anyone's going to turn on him because of a slight underperformance underneath Damien Kirk in a by-election is stupid. By-elections also have really weird voter turnouts. So you'll always get the political hardcore showing up, whereas the people who make up the bulk of the electorate are not going to show up. And typically, if you vote for any of the other parties when one party gets 86%, you're probably more likely to be a hardcore for that party. So I have no doubt that Poilievre is not going to get 86% of the vote. He's probably going to get 75% or something like that, 73%. That's perfectly fine. In a by-election where a lot of people aren't motivated to turn out, and it's just basically a formality to get the leader back into parliament, that's fine. Even if he fell into the 60s, who cares? This entire election is a formality. And Bonnie Critchley is not a real candidate, and anyone pretending she is should have their journalism card taken away from them. Anyways, so that's it for me today, guys. Just another reminder, if you like the show, like the video, subscribe, leave a comment, do all that other great stuff, and I will see you guys around for next time. I don't know. I really screwed this end thing up. I will see you guys next time.